The evening unfolded just the way I'd imagined, warm, welcoming, and filled with the gentle hum of conversation among close friends and family. Laughter mingled with the scent of roasted food and melting candles, wrapping the room in a comfortable glow. I had arranged the night especially for Ethan. Lately, he'd seemed worn down, his days swallowed by work, his smile almost gone. I wanted to give him a night of lightness, a reminder that he was surrounded by people who loved him. And for a while, it worked. Soft music floated through the background, glasses clinked, and conversation flowed effortlessly. Everything felt simple and good, like a quiet pocket of happiness that you almost don't realize you're in until it's gone. Later, a few of us moved to the living room. Someone brought up the time Ethan had spent hours assembling a coffee table, only for it to end up crooked. The room burst into laughter, the kind of laughter old friends share, warm and familiar. I joined in, tossing in a joke of my own. Everyone laughed again. The teasing rolled on, harmless, or so I thought, touching on his forgetfulness, his habit of talking to our dog as if it understood every word. It was all in fun, at least from our side. But as I looked at Ethan, I saw something shift. He smiled, but it wasn't real. His lips formed the shape of one, but his eyes were distant, dim. He seemed to fold inward, retreating from the room little by little. I noticed the flicker of hurt but brushed it off, convincing myself he was simply tired. I didn't realize that something inside him was already beginning to fracture. At some point, he slipped out quietly. I assumed he'd gone to grab a drink or take a short walk to clear his mind. The night carried on, laughter and chatter softening as people began to leave. When the last goodbye was said and the house fell silent, I realized Ethan still hadn't come back. I checked every room, called his name out onto the porch, but there was only silence. His phone, wallet, and keys were gone. A dull unease pressed against my chest. I called him, no answer, straight to voicemail. I told myself he just needed space and that he'd be home before morning. But morning came, and his side of the bed was still untouched. Instead, there was a message waiting on my phone. His words were calm, too calm. He said he was tired. Tired of pretending laughter didn't sting. Tired of feeling small in the one place that was supposed to make him feel safe. He wrote that when I laughed with everyone else instead of standing beside him, something inside him broke. He couldn't keep living as a joke in his own home. I read the message again and again, my hands shaking, my throat dry. I hadn't meant to wound him. I thought I'd been playful, light-hearted. But in that moment, I'd become just another voice that made him feel invisible. I called and called, begging him to answer. He never did. And the silence that followed was heavier than any argument we'd ever had. 2 days later, a moving truck pulled up outside. His clothes were gone, his shoes too. Even the old mug with the chipped rim he'd always refused to replace had vanished. The space he once filled so quietly now felt painfully empty. Friends called, bewildered. One mentioned how distant he'd seemed that night. Another recalled hearing him murmur something before leaving. "This isn't my home anymore." Those words cut through me. I began to understand. It hadn't been just one thoughtless remark or a single bad evening. It was the weight of countless small hurts, each one ignored until they piled too high. That night had simply been the moment he couldn't carry them anymore. I filled pages with apologies and confessions, with promises I should have made long before. I told him I finally saw what I'd taken for granted, that love isn't made of laughter if that laughter wounds. But he never replied. Weeks turned into months, and his silence became its own kind of answer. Then, one morning, a thick envelope arrived. Inside were the divorce papers. No anger, no blame, just quiet certainty. His signature was calm and deliberate. I signed mine sitting on the couch we'd once picked out together. The one where we used to drift off to sleep watching movies, laughter wrapping around us like warmth. Now, whenever I'm in a room where someone becomes the butt of a joke, I find myself watching closely. I see who laughs, who looks away, and who doesn't notice the quiet harm words can do. And every time, I think of Ethan, the man who loved softly, who never mocked anyone, who gave nothing but kindness.